Yo, what's up, guys? We've got a cool video just came out a couple days ago, I think, or yeah, one day ago. It's by War Leaks. There you see right here, War Leaks. I've been watching these guys for a long ass time, but they usually have some pretty gnarly stuff. So viewer discretion advised. It's just like a war update. Some usually just has like cool highlights of shit that's going on in the conflict. Excuse me, real quick. My name is Saxon. I went by Vegas in the International Legion. I joined the Legion in January of 2023. I'm still in Ukraine. I'm no longer in the Legion. Before I was in the Legion, I was a firefighter in EMT outside of Fort Worth, Texas. So let's jump into this. Let's see what we got going on here. Please like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff, you guys. We don't make any money on this kind of content, but I enjoy making it, watching it with you guys, and talking in the comments. So any kind of sharing or commenting that you can do is much appreciated. Oh!
Hello and welcome to a new Ukraine war update.
God damn, that was a drone?
Hello and welcome to a new Ukraine war update. As always,
I feel like if that was a POV, like a suicide drone, that would have still exploded, though. That's weird.
If you like my content and want to support the effort I put into it, please feel free to leave a like and comment to help with the algorithm. Thank you. Also, this is a cut version. The full uncensored version can be found on my Telegram channel. The link is in the description. A Russian FPV drone directly hits a Turkish-supplied BMC QP MRAP in Ukrainian service. The armored vehicle continues moving, so a second FPV drone is sent in, again with no effect on the vehicle's mobility. Even the third and fourth strike is withstood by the MRAP. The fourth hit, however, seems to have forced the crew to abandon the KP. Finally, a fifth FPV drone manages to cause a final blow to the now abandoned vehicle, disabling it. More fortunate was this reportedly Russian vehicle, which had a close encounter with a Ukrainian FPV drone landing directly in front of it.
Oh my god.
This helmet camera video, filmed by a Russian soldier from the back of a vehicle, shows the attempt to outmaneuver a Ukrainian FPV drone. During the attempt, they try to shoot it down with an assault rifle, a task that is anything but easy at high speed, so the attempt fails. However, the vehicle is lucky enough to escape the incoming drone as it impacts right next to the vehicle. This, however, was one of the rare occasions, as this video will soon show. Here, a Ukrainian FPV drone is chasing a pair of Russians fleeing from it on a jet ski in Kherson. Like in the previous videos, their main attempt to counter the drone is with speed, but the attempt failed.
Shit.
This Russian turtle tank with a mine roller in front was tasked with clearing.
That does not get much worse than that, dude. That thing was hauling ass, too, that jet ski. So that drone must have been cruising. How fast do you think that thing was going? Comment below. What do you say, turtle tank? Russian turtle tank?
This Russian turtle tank with a mine roller in front was tasked with clearing a path through a minefield to deliver infantry to the gray zone. Look how it triggers the mines. Now, one could say that it was at least partially successful, as we can see it trigger a total of 6 mines. However, the damage was so severe that the tank was put out of action. It rode a little further and then came to a stop. As if that wasn't enough, the Ukrainians recorded another hit shortly afterward with something that was most likely an FPV drone or an anti-tank weapon. The crew seemed to have gotten away with just a scare. This disabled and abandoned T-90 tank also fell victim to a small
It's kind of crazy how many people I've seen in this conflict and just in videos and stuff that are running in the conflict area with no rifle. Like they're just hauling ass, nothing in their hands. So crazy to me.
Ukrainian FPV drone, which finished it off with a direct hit, causing the tank to engulf in flames and burn out.
Damn.
A Ukrainian drone captured a stunning video showing a Russian BMP-2 and a Ukrainian BMP-2 facing each other in a direct, face-to-face confrontation on a road north of Vuhledar on October 1st, 2024. Both BMPs fire at each other with their 30mm automatic cannons in a more than even fight. Since both sides operate the same vehicle, it came down to the experience and also the luck of each individual BMP crew to come out on top of the engagement. The Ukrainians won the battle and even captured the Russian BMP, which was apparently abandoned by its crew in the heat of the battle.
Hell yeah.
Here we have interesting footage of a Russian mechanized assault consisting of 2 vehicles being disrupted and stopped by a lone Ukrainian tank firing at them. One vehicle is taken out by a direct hit, while the other managed to get away for a short time but was later hit. The video was released by the Azov Brigade and was filmed in the New York sector.
Woo.
Ukraine has released the first video footage of one of their German-supplied Skynex anti-air defense systems made by Rheinmetall. The video, reportedly filmed during training, shows the Skynex in action as it fires its 35mm cannon. The Skynex is designed to be modular and highly adaptable, meaning it can integrate various sensors, effectors, and command systems, making it customizable to different operational needs. This flexibility allows it to be tailored to different threat environments. It uses a 35mm Oerlikon revolver gun, which is highly effective at engaging aerial targets. This automatic cannon can fire high explosive rounds at a very high rate of fire and is optimized for tracking and hitting fast-moving targets, such as drones and aircraft. Another way to deal with enemy drones is demonstrated by this Russian helicopter, which reportedly intercepted a Ukrainian drone using a 9K-121 Vika missile. What is notable here is that this is a Russian-made anti-tank guided missile. Small attack drones can also be stopped by something as simple as a net, as demonstrated here. Experiments to merge drones with disposable rocket launchers continue. This time, a new video from the Russian side shows the latest test of this concept. In this video, Ukrainian air defense crews...
No fucking way, dude. You got a bull spike on that bitch.
In this video, new video from the Russian side shows the latest test of this concept. In this video, Ukrainian air defense crews are shown carrying out their nightly task of intercepting Russian drones targeting critical Ukrainian infrastructure and civilian areas. In the Kursk region, Russian forces continue to conduct counteroffensive operations using mechanized...
Wonder how they can even see those things. Or maybe they're larger drones so they could see them. I guess when he said drone, I was thinking like those little FPVs.
Formations, as shown in this video from the Russian-Ukrainian border. We can see Russian tanks and IFVs coming under Ukrainian fire near a Russian defensive line consisting of anti-tank ditches, barbed wire, and dragon's teeth. Infantry could also be seen moving to the defensive line. From the footage, it appears that Russia suffered heavy equipment losses from this push. We also saw more footage of Leopard 2 tanks from Kursk, including these two clips showing Russian FPV drone strikes using fiber optic cables for guidance. The FPV threat did not stop Ukraine from using one of their Leopard 2 tanks for a risky evacuation mission, where it towed away a disabled Ukrainian tank while under artillery fire. We can see the smoke dispenser in action while the Leopard is evacuating the Ukrainian tank, which seems to be a T-72. What do you think about this move? Brave or simply too risky? Let me know in the comments. Here we have more footage of Ukrainian special forces operating in Russia's Kursk region, conducting ambushes on Russian forces and clearing Russian defensive positions. Some of the operators are wearing ghillie suits. Everything was recorded by helmet cameras worn by the soldiers. Unfortunately, the footage is not in high resolution, but that's how it was released. Furthermore, this was most likely filmed during the first days of the invasion but was withheld until now. I definitely remember some of the locations from previous Ukraine war updates. This helmet cam video shows a Ukrainian Special Forces unit from the Ukrainian National Guard during an assault on a Russian-held trench on the southern front. The men are part of the so-called Omega Special Forces. Omega is a highly trained Special Forces unit within the Ukrainian National Guard. Their role includes conducting high-risk operations such as direct assaults, counterterrorism, reconnaissance, and sabotage missions. Formed to respond to both conventional military...
Look at these guys move, dude. These guys are well trained. I mean, this is so scary watching a barrel behind somebody this close fired to me. But I mean, they're a unit.
Threats and asymmetrical warfare, Omega operates on the front lines in some of the most dangerous zones. The unit has played a critical role in Ukraine's defense, particularly in southern and eastern combat zones. Traditionally, however, it was founded as a counterterrorism unit, so seeing them in trench warfare might seem a bit strange to some. But we have to keep in mind that, in the context of Ukraine, counterterrorism has largely focused on fighting against pro-Russian separatist forces since Russia first invaded Ukraine in 2014. The war in Ukraine has once again shown that, in many cases, special forces are basically just infantry. A major aspect that sets special forces apart from regular units, besides their mindset, is their highly specialized focus on various means of infiltration and their ability to operate autonomously deep in enemy-held territory. Both of these have become very difficult in Ukraine. In large-scale conflicts, like the war in Ukraine, their tactical versatility is often required for standard combat operations. While special forces excel in specialized tasks like reconnaissance...
I was thinking about this the other day. It's so you know, the circumstances of the war is just awful, right? And I still stand on the fact that this is a very clear example of right and wrong. Russia's wrong, Ukraine's right. No matter what the history exists between these nations, Ukraine has wanted their independence from Russia for a long time. There's been multiple rebellions and uprisings to try to get their freedom. So many people killed, you know, and anyways, I went on a tangent there, but my point is this conflict is so well videoed, right? So well documented. Everybody seems like it's got a GoPro on their helmet. I remember when I was younger, I was watching a lot of like the U.S. forces in the Middle East and Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, and I think I don't know. I mean, it'd be really cool to see like some sort of a combat operation by maybe the Rangers or some unit. One of them has some GoPro footage and it's mostly blurred out, and I'm so excited to watch that shit. And now we've got this where you're seeing step by step everything happen. It's pretty incredible.
Counterterrorism and infiltration. During prolonged conflicts, they may also perform basic infantry roles, including holding territory, launching assaults, and defending positions when the need arises, especially in conventional warfare scenarios. The men had support from an M113, but abandoned their assault and left the area while under fire. Disclaimer, this was archival footage from the beginning of the year. This is a Russian assault on a Ukrainian trench. The Russians arrived in a BTR, which provided covering fire as they immediately moved toward the trench and attacked it with grenades and small arms. The Russian assault on the Ukrainian trench demonstrates tactical coordination between mechanized units and infantry. The BTR.
I've gotten a lot of questions in my email, like about what is the experience level of the Russian military, the Russian fighters. Are they, really well trained, or are they a bunch of recruits like Western media seems to portray them often? And my answer is always both. There's a mixture of both on the front, and I think I see so much information, videos, interviews of people trying to portray Russia as this, the Russian forces as orcs, right? They're just hordes of, very low trained, if trained at all. Some of them don't even have weapons. They're just flooding these trench lines, which I'm sure is the case in some locations. In fact, we've seen it. I've seen it. But you see a unit like this, these guys are trained. And even if it's just basic infantry training, but the way they pull up, the armor lays down covering fire, they unload, even the way that they unload here, and they provide cover. This is a trained military unit, right? And I think this is much more common on the front than a lot of people realize. They're no slouches, man. I think there's a really big misconception here that, the Russians are they all just suck. Right? It's not the case, man. You've got well-trained infantry units, you've got the airborne units, you've got their Spetsnaz, which we hear very little about these days. When I was on the front, we'd hear about them more often, and at the beginning of the conflict, we hear about Spetsnaz, and specifically because we would notice when Legionnaires from the International Legion would get into contact with the enemy, right? Maybe it's a firefight or whatever. It was common that the Russian forces would radio in Spetsnaz to come contact the Legionnaires, because they're under the impression the Legionnaires are these really well-trained Western soldiers, right? But don't hear about Spetsnaz very often anymore. I hear more about the airborne. I hear more about well-trained armored or mechanized brigades and some infantry. Anyways, I just wanted to say that.
And small arms. The Russian assault on the Ukrainian trench demonstrates tactical coordination between mechanized units and infantry. The BTR played a crucial role by providing suppressive covering fire, allowing the Russian soldiers to dismount under protection. Once disembarked, The infantry immediately charged toward the Ukrainian trench, using grenades to soften resistance and following up with small arms fire. The assault reflects typical modern warfare tactics where mechanized infantry coordinates with armored vehicles to rapidly close in on enemy positions, minimizing the defenders' time to react. Both sides have employed these tactics extensively throughout the war in Ukraine, particularly in heavily contested areas along the front lines. Thank you very much for watching so far. If you found the video interesting, stay tuned because there's a lot more in.
Sorry about that. I just got a call from Tex. We're going to go see a buddy of ours who we trained with, who was out on the front. He just lost a leg. And he's been brought here to Lviv for surgery. We just found that out. So we're going to go meet up with him. Terrible, man. Just a kid, too, from Peru. So sad. He was actually a firefighter and an EMT in Peru. So him and I hit it off when we were in training together because we had, these similarities. Neither of us had combat experience. Anyways, let's get back to it.
Interesting. Make sure to stay tuned because there's tested areas along the front lines. Thank you very much for watching so far. If you found the video interesting, make sure to stay tuned because there's a lot more interesting content ahead. Also, please leave a like and comment. It really helps this channel more than you can imagine. Furthermore, feel free to share this video so it reaches more people outside the YouTube algorithm bubble. Thank you so much. Here we have footage from another Russian assault, this time on a Ukrainian-held compound, mostly filmed on helmet cameras with a bit of drone footage in between. We can see Russian soldiers advancing on the compound with covering fire, while the Ukrainians seem to have taken a more passive stance, staying in cover and allowing the Russians to close in on the buildings. The actual Ukrainian resistance seems close to zero, but they are present in the buildings, as shown later. It looks like this was a heavily isolated and outnumbered Ukrainian element, as the Russians appear to have a tactical advantage here. It also seems the Ukrainians had no support from drones or artillery, allowing the Russians to move freely out in the open without fearing disruption by those means. I know that many Ukraine supporters do not like to see this, and some might claim that these are staged scenes, but I don't believe that's the case here. I also think it's important that we don't view the war through rose-colored glasses. Denying Russia even the smallest tactical success is not productive. I understand why the Ukrainians do it. After all, this war is largely fought in the informational space, and propaganda has always involved downplaying your enemy. The Russians do the same thing, but as an outside observer, this shows me that Russia is still very much in the fight, just as Ukraine is. Despite their heavy losses, Russian troops are also gaining a lot of experience. However, while Russia was successful here and even captured the Ukrainian soldiers who held the compound, I
100% agree with him. I get a lot of comments about watch the Russian point of view, watch the Russian perspective, and of course I hesitate to do this because it just sucks. I don't want to see Ukrainians dying, but as I've mentioned almost in every video, the purpose of this channel is to be as transparent as possible for people who may end up coming to Ukraine like I did, like I am. You got to know every side of it, and that's including seeing these successful Russian operations, no matter how small, right?
I have to put this into perspective a bit. As suspected earlier, it was an outgunned Ukrainian element, just 2 soldiers to be exact, who, without support, were exposed to a much larger number of Russian forces. The Ukrainians also released a similar video in which they attacked a Russian-held compound.
2 soldiers, that fucking sucks. Sorry guys, I'm back. Just had to finish something up real quick. Let's finish this.
Compound in the Kursk region, this time with armored support in the form of an M113. In this case, the Ukrainians completely dominated the scene without much resistance from the Russians. This shows how this war often plays out, blow for blow, all for small tactical successes in the hope that they will make a difference. Interestingly, only 2 Russian soldiers were captured here as well, but like with the Ukrainians, I had to blur the footage. The unblurred version of the video can be found on my Telegram. In Pokrovsk, where Russia's main effort is currently still concentrated, Russian offensive operations continue, with gains towards the town reported nearly on a daily basis. Geolocated footage has documented several hotspots on the front where Russian forces are attempting to push forward. The main frontline towns currently being used as bases for Russian operations toward Pokrovsk, Rodivka, Mykolaiv, Novo.
See, I heard somebody say in a video yesterday that this is a conflict of small teams, right? Small teams do are most effective in this conflict, whether it's assaulting or defending or whatever it is, taking out machine gun nests or armored vehicles. But it's all about small teams moving in much larger troops. Usually just means more casualties because there's more to focus on with the indirect fire, artillery, mortars, and I don't know, just more dangerous that way. So small teams is smart. But I also learned while I was in training here that the rule of 3-1. So if you're going to assault a Russian position and there's 7 of them there, you need to bring a minimum of 21 people, 3 times 7, right? So it at first when I see these videos and I see a team of like 10 people capture 2, right? It's like, God, that feels like it's so, the ratio's off. But no, that's about right? That's about a 3-1. That's kind of what we were trained. That's how they're operating. Anyways, let's keep going.
Novorodivka, Mikhailivka, and Ukraine's. The city serves as a critical logistical hub in Donetsk Oblast. Despite heavy Russian advances, Ukrainian forces continue to hold defensive positions. The fighting in this area remains intense, with both sides suffering significant losses. Russian forces have been pushing toward Pokrovsk for months, aiming to secure this key strategic point. The battle has become a focal point in the broader conflict, as control over Pokrovsk would significantly impact the operational capabilities of both sides, influencing supply routes and troop movements across the region. One of the frontline sections that has seen some of the heaviest fighting in the last 30 days is the gray zone between Mikhailivka and Seledov. This goes especially for this bridge here, due to its location over the main connecting road between Mikhailivka and Seledov, and the bottleneck it created. Both sides were highly interested in controlling it. As a choke point, however, the area under and around the bridge also became a well-observed kill zone, with wrecks piling up quickly and blocking the way. Ukrainian forces, who seem to have gained the upper hand in the battles over the bridge, had to use their armored vehicles to push the Russian wrecks aside several times in order to launch assaults into Russian-held territory. For this, special engineering equipment was used, but also tanks, as shown here. It seems the tank even triggered an explosion under the bridge as it was pushing the wreck of a Russian armored vehicle aside. It also opened fire with its main cannon. All of this was done to prepare for a raid conducted by a Ukrainian BTR, which moved under the bridge into Russian-held territory to engage Russian positions with what appeared to be mostly harassment fire. I used the term raid here because it didn't look like the BTR was delivering infantry to occupy any positions in the area. It just drove through the streets and opened fire on what were presumably Russian-held buildings and positions. However, it's possible that infantry was dropped off, but that footage was withheld for operational security reasons, though I don't think that was the case. The Russians even tried to seal the gateway into their part of the area by blocking the road with a tank. We could see the crew parking it and leaving the scene. However, the Ukrainians sent in one of their own tanks, which towed the Russian tank away. All this was recorded by a Ukrainian drone, as so often in this war. The tank was captured by members of the 15th Korodite Brigade, who used a clever tactic to conceal their actions. As they approached the abandoned Russian tank, they deployed smoke to provide at least partial cover, reducing the visibility of their operation.
See this happen a lot in this conflict, that Russia uses their armored vehicles as like throwaways, like one-time uses almost. You see their armored vehicle take, a minimal amount of damage, not something that completely removes or makes the tank combat ineffective, but then all of the armored personnel dip out. Or like this, they just literally just put a tank, multi-million-dollar piece of war machine, as a roadblock, basically, to use as a roadblock. And the Ukrainians are like, all right, free tank, hook it up and take it out.
The Russians were so enraged by this that they eventually struck the bridge with a missile. This Ukrainian BMP-2 provided fire support for the dismount of infantry to occupy houses in the town of Helitsinivka. We can see the BMP-2 using its 30mm cannon, and later a squad of Ukrainian infantry dismounting under the cover of its fire. The men are part of the so-called Shvel battalion of the 59th Brigade. Interestingly, these men are former prisoners. Convicted of a variety of crimes, they see their service in defense of Ukraine as redemption and a chance at a new life without a criminal record. Prisoners who join the Ukrainian military are contracted to serve until the end of the war. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, wages for these soldiers range from $500 to $4,000 per month, depending on the amount of time they spend on the front line.
That's the same as your regular enlisted soldier, including Legionnaire.
After 2 years of intense fighting, including heavy losses for the Russian army, it now seems that Russia has captured the town of Vuhledar. This was reported by Russian outlets, and the deep state map also shows it. In Vovchansk, Ukrainian forces managed to clear and recapture the Vovchansk aggregate plant from Russian troops after months of heavy fighting. The plant had been a key Russian stronghold since the battle for Vovchansk began. Ukraine managed to encircle and trap Russian fighters in the plant, which was used by the Russians due to its solid industrial buildings, offering strong protection against artillery and drones. The Russians held their positions for several months, but after Ukraine's Kursk offensive, Russian focus shifted away from the area, leaving the troops inside the plant on their own. This allowed Ukraine to enter the plant and drive Russian forces out, as shown in footage released by Ukrainian soldiers during combat inside the plant. The recapture of the Vovchansk aggregate plant in Kharkiv Oblast by Ukrainian forces could support further counteroffensive operations in the northern part of the region, according to the UK Ministry of Defence, which cited intelligence on October 1st. The ministry believes that the loss of control over the plant will hinder Russian ground forces' ability.
We did a lot of training in the Legion on how to assault positions like this, big buildings, like enemy held but abandoned, right, from like obviously any civilian personnel, basically how to move in and out and CQB tactics. And luckily we never had to assault one of these buildings actually on the front line, because God, it looks like a fucking nightmare. Even when we were training, I just, in my head, I was realizing how many casualties we'll probably take if we have to push a building like this. There's so many ways to get shot or hurt or roll a grenade into your corridor or whatever.
To advance in Kharkiv Oblast. A representative from the Kharkiv Operational Tactical.
I suppose that's true for any CQB fight, right? But we mainly trained in areas like this, these like industrial buildings.
Group mentioned that around 40 Russian soldiers were originally stationed at the plant, but they had suffered significant losses over time. In response to the loss, Russia released footage of a heavy Fab 3000 glide bomb strike on the plant. Well, here 2 Ukrainian soldiers have to deal with a camel. The animal is standing in a pasture among cows. It seems the Ukrainians are trying to catch it. It likely escaped from a nearby zoo after a Russian air attack. Crazy, or what do you think? Pretty surreal images if you ask me. Not from Ukraine, but still interesting, is this video that shows a US fighter jet having a pretty close call with a Russian fighter jet zipping past during an intercept in Alaska. This Russian Buk anti-air defense site was struck by a Ukrainian HIMARS strike, hitting at least one.
That was fucking sick though. That was like straight up some Top Gun maneuver.
Attack. Crazy, or what do you think? Pretty surreal images if you ask me. Not from Ukraine, but still interesting, is this video that shows a US fighter jet having a pretty close call with a Russian fighter jet zipping past during an intercept in Alaska. This Russian Buk anti-air defense site was struck by a Ukrainian HIMARS strike, hitting at least one of the vehicles present at the site. It seems the strike occurred during an attempt to relocate. A clear damage assessment, however, is missing.
Oh, I think it's dead.
And here we have a Ukrainian strike on a Russian Zupuk M1 radar station. The Zupuk 1M is a Russian counter-battery radar system designed to detect and track the origin of incoming artillery, mortar and rocket fire. It provides targeting data for counterstrikes by calculating the launch positions of enemy projectiles. The system is mounted on a tracked vehicle, offering mobility and protection in various terrain conditions. After the strike, the radar continued to move for a bit but was then abandoned by its crew. This footage released by the Russian Ministry of Defense shows a Russian 2S-7 Pion artillery system in action. The 2S-7 Pion is a Soviet-era self-propelled artillery system designed for long-range bombardment. It is one of the largest and most powerful artillery systems still in use today, capable of firing extremely heavy shells over long distances. The 2S-7 Pion is equipped with a 203mm caliber cannon. Ukraine recently also released footage of a Russian 2S-7, but this one fell victim to a Ukrainian strike. The Pion offers limited protection for its crew. Unlike modern self-propelled guns, it lacks an enclosed turret, leaving the crew somewhat exposed to return fire or air attacks. Ukraine released several videos showing FPV drone intercepts of various Russian drones, including Lancets and even a Zola drone disguised as a Ukrainian one, with painted Ukrainian insignias. A bit over the top by the Russians.
That definitely looked like a German insignia to me.
Ukraine released several videos showing FPV drone intercepts of various Russian drones, including Lancets and even a Zola drone disguised as a
Fuck. Am I tripping, or is this... I mean... Is this also a Ukrainian symbol?
Ukrainian one, with painted Ukrainian insignias, a bit over the top by the Russians.
Good afternoon. Greetings from the Ukrainian Volunteer Center. Kursk region. Ukrainian soldiers and the Ukrainian people showed Russia that we will not be broken. We have shown that international support is very important to us and we are using it to the maximum effect. We have shown that the only thing Russian soldiers can do in our country is to become a fertilizer for our land. Now, there is an urgent need for drones and vehicles. That is why we are announcing a new fundraising. Volkswagen T5 for the soldiers in the Sumy direction and 2 Mavic 3T drones for the guys in the Donetsk sector, where we are having a hard time. The goal of fundraising is $18,000. For the largest donation, we will raffle off a trophy watch, Commander's watch made in Russia from a dead occupant from Chechnya. For donation of $50 or more, we will raffle off 1 set of glasses by using a randomizer. As always, all reports will be after the fundraising is over. Thank you for your trust.
Here's... Oh, shit. Well, the PayPal's up here, guys. It's...
Thank you for your support. With love from you.
If you want to support what they're talking about here, check them out at this PayPal. That's very cool. Oh, that's the end of the video. That was cool, dude. I like this War Leaks channel because this guy, he's smart and he's clearly knowledgeable about the conflict, but he's also trying to be as unbiased as possible, right? Not like a couple of the other sources that we watch sometimes. They're very, very pro-Ukraine. They're not going to show anything that shows Russia getting a foothold or a leg up on the Ukrainians. But this showed us, it was probably maybe 60-40 Ukraine to Russia content. So that was interesting. With that said, please never get me wrong. Fuck Russia wholeheartedly and Putin. Okay, but I do believe it is important to see all sides of the conflict. With that said, let's leave it at that. And I've got another one that I'm filming right now as well. It'll be up in probably today. Oh, also, you guys, anybody who is in the path of Milton, that hurricane coming up through Florida, let us know. You're safe in the comments. Let us know what's going on with that. That thing looks gnarly. That's probably one of the biggest hurricanes I've seen in a satellite image before. That thing is insane. Stay safe. Love you guys. And I'll see you in the next video.